and welcome back to Blue Flag Bandits, the series that takes you through F1's backmarker teams from the first iteration of the Codemasters games F1 2010 all the way through to the present day, whenever that might be. And we're in the midst of 2011, over half distance, getting closer to the end of the season, and we are at the fearsome, iconic Spa-Francorchamps for the Belgian Grand Prix of 2011. And as you can see, by all the green and yellow in front of you, and Jarno Trulli stood there chattering away relentlessly to a reporter. We're driving for Team Lotus, the team that eventually became Caterham, that came back into the sport, or the name came back into the sport in 2010, and ran with 0 points through its entire life cycle. And our 2011 is kind of panning out the same way. The last couple of rounds in Germany and Hungary have been odd, I guess. We've had some promise, and we've also had some huge disappointment. And also, we've just sort of found ourselves, most of the time, kind of driving along in our own little bubble. Faster than the guys around us, the other Team Lotus car of Trulli, the HRTs and the Virgin Racing cars, but not quite quick enough to fight with the Williams, or the Force Indias, or the Toro Rossos just up ahead of us. That means that coming into this round, we are P19 in the standings with 0 points, ahead of Glock, Liuzzi, D'Ambrosio, Kartikeyan and Trulli. Trulli there being last. Level on points with Maldonado and Sutil in one of the Williams, one of the Force Indias. But at the moment, I don't feel like we're going to pick up any points running for the rest of this season, which, considering as we scored 80 points with Virgin Racing in Season 1 in 2010, is going to be a massive come down, essentially. Rubens Barrichello was also in and around us, but as you can see, he picked up a point. He got that in a attritional Hungarian Grand Prix in the last round, picked up P10 there, and that moves him now a point clear of us, and that point feels like an absolute canyon. At the top end of things, though, is Fernando Alonso, who's level on points with Sebastian Vettel. Mark Webber, our defending 2010 champion in our timeline, is just 12 points behind, so still very much in the fight, but a little further back, but still, I think, in with a shot. Massa and Hamilton, well, both past 100 points, probably now falling maybe just a bit too far back unless there's plenty of retirements. Yes, there are still a number of rounds to go, but you'd expect those cars to all be scoring quite highly through the rest of the season. So maybe they've just slipped out of the fight. Petrov is fighting with Rosberg and Schumacher down there for P7. Sergio Perez in kind of a bubble on his own in his debut season there in 10th. And it's Kobayashi and Heidfeld level on points. Buemi a couple of points behind them, bolstered by a fantastic result in Germany a couple of rounds ago. His teammate Alguersuari, Paul di Resta, and then the aforementioned Barrichello. In the Constructors, we're P10. We haven't moved. We've been P10 all season, ahead of Virgin Racing and HRT, but behind Williams, and now a single point behind Williams. Red Bull lead the way. Not by as big a gap as they had in 2010, but it does look like they're starting to edge away from Ferrari, McLaren on their own in third. Mercedes with a little gap to Lotus Renault in fourth, and then the Sauber, Toro Rosso, Force India and Williams. And that's where we stand going into Belgium. And I know as well that this is followed very quickly by Monza. These are going to be two races probably of pain. This car really lacks top speed, doesn't have KERS. You're only getting DRS in one place on every circuit. This game didn't simulate in the extra DRS zones in, I think it was Valencia and Canada. But everywhere else, essentially has one DRS zone, which obviously you can only use when you're in a second of a car ahead, which we're normally not. We're normally the ones defending. And both of these circuits, like I say, really power dependent. So I can't imagine that either of these races are going to be particularly fun for us. Again, we should easily have the pace on the guys around us, the other Team Lotus, the Virgin Racings and the HRTs. We should disappear away from them. Whether we can pick up places here through possible bad weather, we're expecting maybe some rain on race day, or issues for other cars like we got in Hungary. We finished 14th in Hungary, our second best result of the year, which kind of shows you where we're at pace-wise, mainly through retirements. Then we might be able to maybe just steal something, but it is very much clutching at straws every round between now and the end of the season, maybe with the exception of Brazil, which is a circuit I really enjoy driving. I enjoy here and I enjoy Monza, but I know that power is going to be an issue. Korea, Japan, India I've not driven for years, and Abu Dhabi, despite the incredible victory we took there last season, I don't think are really going to suit. But we can only hope. We can only push for what we can push for, and that's going to be the aim here in Belgium, as always. Let's head to practice. Find our way around this iconic venue in the 2011 spec machinery, and talk about the real world 2011 Belgian Grand Prix. The iconic Spa-Francorchamps was the scene for round 12 of the 2011 season, and it saw driver changes, anniversaries, and a DRS change. Much like the banning of DRS through Monaco's tunnel, the drivers raised concerns to the FAA about the use of DRS through Eau Rouge and Ravion in practice. As such, the FAA banned its use through that section of track between the entry to La Source, turn 1, and the top of the Eau Rouge Ravion complex at the top of the hill. In driver news, Michael Schumacher celebrated the 20th anniversary of his F1 debut for Jordan at the famous circuit, donning a gold helmet for the occasion. There would also be another iconic Formula 1 name back on the grid once again, as Bruno Senna replaced Nick Heidfeld at Lotus Renault for the remainder of the season after the German failed to impress the Enstone base outfit. All three practice sessions were wet, leading to a few incidents in the first session at least, both Bruno Senna and Paul di Resta copying damage after spinning at turn 9, di Resta's incident leading to the session being red flagged. It was Michael Schumacher on top of the first session, though Mercedes wouldn't have it all their own way in the 2. Webber led the way in the second and third practice sessions. Qualifying started in equally treacherous conditions, with Schumacher falling victim to the damp track almost immediately, dropping a wheel at Rivage on his out lap and crashing out the session, meaning he'd start in 24th and last, the worst starting position of his career. This would give some small glimmer of hope to Team Lotus, Virgin Racing and HRT, even with the track drying out. It would be Heikki Kovalainen who would once again make it into Q2 at the expense of Paul di Resta. The lap times were changing at such a pace that both HRTs and Jerome D'Ambrosio in the Virgin Racing set times outside of the 107% rule, but it would be allowed to stop. It began raining again at the start of Q2, the conditions catching out Adrian Sutil, who crashed at the top of Eau Rouge and covered the track in debris from his Force India, leading to another red flag in another session. When the session resumed, with 7 minutes remaining, drivers scrambled to get a lap in. In the final few seconds, there were 4 drivers attempting to get through the bus stop chicane to start a lap before the session ended, something that not a single one of them managed. Amongst those guys were Hamilton and Maldonado, the Brit attempting an aggressive move to get past Williams to ensure that he managed to start a lap. After the session ended, Maldonado swiped across Hamilton at Eau Rouge, damaging the McLaren's front wing and side pod, leading the Venezuelan to receive a 5-place grid drop. The major surprise of the session was that Jenson Button could only manage 13th and was knocked out after moving out of Hamilton's way, sacrificing his own lap in the process. The final part of qualifying saw the use of dry tyres for the first time all weekend, with a dry line forming around the circuit. Lap times tumbled rapidly, and it was Sebastian Vettel who managed to once again prevail, taking yet another pole position. Hamilton would overcome the minor cycle damage to take second ahead of Webber, while Massa outqualified Alonso by taking fourth. There was drama before the race even began, as several teams lobbied the FIA to make an extra set of tyres available after discovering heavy blistering immediately after qualifying. The FIA rejected this appeal, meaning that some drivers would start on compromised tyres. Pirelli would be critical of the teams, notably Red Bull, for running extreme camber, which is what they believed to be causing the blistering. The start, as is so often the case in Belgium, was punctuated by two separate incidents that resulted in contact. At the front, Rosberg got away better than the cars ahead and was leading by the source, while Webber slipped back due to his Red Bull dropping into anti-stall. Further back, Bruno Senna misjudged his braking point and collided with Jaime Alguersuari, the Toro Rosso being pushed into Alonso. Alonso was lucky to escape unscathed while Alguersuari was out of the spot. Senna managed to continue, but had to pit for repairs and got himself a drive-through penalty. The debris from the collision also affected Jenson Button. Part of the Lotus front wing damaged the McLaren, so he also had to pit. While further back in the field, Glock collided with the Resta, letting the German drive-through as well, while both Team Motor cars spun, trying to avoid the many incidents ahead. Rosberg would lead for the first couple of laps, but was powerless to defend against Vettel once DRS was activated, first ceding the lead to Vettel before falling down the order until the first round of pit stops on lap 5. Webber was the first to pit, with Vettel, Hamilton and Alonso thereafter. Alonso emerged just ahead of Webber, who pulled off an audacious and infamous move through Eau Rouge to retake the position. Not far behind them, Blaney and Perez made contact, the Toro Rosso's rear wing being completely destroyed. Button and Schumacher were making great progress through the field and were well placed when the safety car was deployed on lap 13. Hamilton and Kobayashi were fighting along the Kemmel Straight. Hamilton, believing he'd made the move, drifted to the left on the racing line before Les Combes, but Kobayashi was still there. The two made contact and Hamilton was out, while Kobayashi managed to continue round. The race progressed from there, sort of settling down, battles up and down the field as usual. Button suggested he could take another sensational victory, much like he had in Canada, even briefly leading during the final pit stop phase, but the McLaren couldn't match the pace of Vettel's outlap. It would be Sebastian Vettel who'd go on to win ahead of Webber and Button, with Alonso in fourth place. Michael Schumacher took fifth after a climb through the field from last, while Rosberg, Sutil, Massa, Petrov and Maldonado took the final points. Maldonado taking his first point in his F1 career, and the first points for a Venezuelan driver since Johnny Cecotto at the 1983 US GP West. How's our Belgian qualifying going to go? Well, this is a circuit that demands power, something we don't really have in the T128. But as you'd expect at Spa, there's talk of rain throughout the weekend, because of course there is, and we've seen how that's helped us out this season. The forecast suggests rain in qualifying, at least in one of the sessions, and I'm really desperately hoping it's the first, while there's also likely to be rain in the race. If we get that rain in that first session, I think we can make it through. So let's aim for 16th, and try and pick off a couple of spots from those established drivers. If we don't get rain, I think we all know where we'll end up.
We don't think you'll have any trouble getting into the next session, so don't push too hard.
Welcome to the garage then for qualifying at the Belgian Grand Prix 2011, and as you can see, the rain is falling, and it looks like it's going to continue for most of at least Q1. And we've seen what that does for us in qualifying. China and Germany really catapulting us up the order thanks to a wet qualifying session or a mixed conditions session. Practice, well, we ended in the dry session in practice exactly where you'd expect us to end, P19. So clearly our traditional starting spot is going to be the thing that we're probably going to get, but in conditions like this, you never know. So let's get out there, run some laps, and see if we can sneak into Q2 for just the third time this year. Let's take a look at that fastest lap in Q1.
Time in the final 2 sectors.
Not a great lap leading into it, and we're up behind Adrian Sutil in Force India, but as you can see, conditions tricky, and we're ahead of Mark Webber, who's had a really bad qualifying so far and just about holding on to a spot in Q2. Having to back off through Eau Rouge and Rabion after a nice tidy La Source, almost losing the rear end in the conditions, will compromise us all the way down Camel Straight. We might just be close enough to be getting a little bit of a tow from the Force India as we come into Lake Com. 2 tenths down in the first sector, but you can see how quickly we close up. And if you've heard Andy there, the brakes are cold because of the conditions. We're right up behind Sutil now, so we have to make a move into the next corner to ensure that we can complete the lap in a decent time. Really just waiting to get on the power, and the same goes here as well. But as soon as we do, we actually manage to get a really good slingshot out of the corner into this next long left. Again, really just waiting to get back on the power because the car does not want to turn in. The rear keeps trying to get away from us. But we're now heading into probably the more technical part of the circuit. Really wide entry to slingshot our way through the chicane. Actually quite tidy for us as we head on into Stavelot. Really, again, just taking our time, and it's benefited us. Only marginally, but we're
5 minutes of the session remaining.
And we can gun it towards Blanchimont. Now, in this particular era of F1 games, the AI really struggle through Blanchimont, so I know by keeping my foot in it, which is what we do, we managed to make up just a fraction of time into the bus stop chicane. A little bit of grass, which actually compromises our brake into the corner, but we managed to survive it. Run a little bit wide out the second part, cross the line. How much of an improvement is it?
Your time in sector 3 is good, but you're dropping time in 1 and 2. Good work, we're through to the next session.
And for only the third time this season, we make it into Q2 by 2 tenths of a second over Adrian Sutil. Jenson Button down there in 20th, D'Ambrosio there as well. Kartikeyan, Trulli, Glock, Liuzzi, as you'd expect, but Jenson Button, the massive story there, 7.3 seconds off the top, slower than Jerome D'Ambrosio and Adrian Sutil and myself. I'm guessing maybe got caught out, didn't get a lap in. There was evidence during one of my laps of carbon fibre down at the source, so maybe he'd caught some damage and was unfortunate enough not to be able to get back out again or get a clean lap in. But there we go, we are through to Q2 just for the third time this season. How much further will we get? Well, it feels like, as you can see the times, they are fairly standard up near the front Heidfeld. The big surprise there, I think. But the times were collapsing, which suggests that we're going to be having dry running in Q2, which means not much further up the grid. But let's see what we can do. Let's head to that second part of qualifier. Time for the fastest lap in Q2. And as you can see, the weather is dry, and we're already in the top 10, but some 5 seconds off Hamilton at the top. And once again, in the second session, ahead of Webber, much like we were in the first. Heading now to Eau Rouge and Rabion. You can see we can just gun it. Yeah, we run a little wide through Rabion. Unsettles the car, but we still manage to keep our foot in it as we head down the Camel Straight. DRS wide open. All about trying to get the DRS open really early here. A little up, just under a tenth in the first sector, and only 8 tenths off Hamilton. Sector 1 is not our problem. The middle of the lap is where it becomes a bit of an issue. We run wide, drag a bit of gravel and grass, which is going to get debris on the tyres, and we've been dropped into the bottom of the field instead to 11th. Bouncing across curves, trying to find the shortest route through these corners, and very wide into Pouan. Really struggling at this point. The track is
laps of
kind
qualifying.
of green as well, which doesn't help matters at all. So we're not really getting the grip we need. Very wide through the chicane, but on DRS nice and early before getting into Stavolo. Any small bit of time we can gain is helpful. Down by 2/10, but only 3/10 of a second off Heidfeld. We know we can really make that up through Blanchard. Foot to the floor, gentle turning point through the first part to make sure that we don't spin it with the DRS open, but you have to go full lock through there. Back on the DRS towards the bus stop chicane, keep away from the grass and the curb, which gives us a lot better entry point through the chicane. Gun it to the line. Can we squeeze through to Q3?
That's put you up to 10th, 5th row of the grid.
Right then in Q2, but we qualify ahead of Rubens Barrichello and take 16th place, and for periods of that session we were actually in the top 10 on pace. It was a weird one. There were yellow flags all over the shop. I was ahead of Webber and Alonso at times. But in the end, we drop out with Perez, Boemi, Petrov, Heidfeld, Alguersuari, and Barrichello, which means that this is maybe only the third or fourth time this season. As you can see, Di Resta, Kobayashi, Maldonado going through. This is only the third or fourth time this season that top 10 isn't going to be the two Ferraris, the two Red Bulls, the two McLarens, the two Lotus, and the two Mercedes. Actually, not a bad session, surprisingly. I wouldn't say we've got pace, because as you can see, we're still 4.5 seconds off, but actually managing to hold station with the likes of Toro Rosso, Lotus, Williams. Will that continue into the race? Hopefully it will. Let's cross over to that race and see what we can do at Spa. Welcome then to the garage for the Belgian Grand Prix of 2011. And a really positive qualifying, getting into Q2 thanks to weather and possible shenanigans, because Jenson Button got knocked out in Q1. And actually, having a decent time of it in Q2. Yes, we fell out at 16th place, but we were running in the top 10 for a long period of the session. Lots of yellow flags suggesting the AI are really going to have their work cut out here. But let's take a look at the grid, and then we'll get into our hopes for this one. Sebastian Vettel took pole position ahead of Massa, Hamilton, championship protagonist Alonso there in 4th, with Webber in 5th. And then it's Rosberg, Schumacher, Kobayashi, Di Resta, and Maldonado breaking the traditional top 10 driver team combination there. Perez, Petrov, Heidfeld, Alguersuari, there we are. Boemi up there in 12th as well. Rubens Barrichello, 17th. And then it's Sutil, D'Ambrosio, there's Jenson Button, Carter Kane, Trulli, Glock, and Liuzzi. And in the intervening time between qualifying and the race, where we've gone back to paddock just to check on some stuff and then come back, we've been asked who our main rival is. We're now gunning for Pasta Maldonado, somebody also on 0 points, but somebody I think is imminently beatable, hopefully. And could that be in this race? Well, there's a 63% chance of rain, and as anyone who's ever watched Formula 1 in Belgium knows, it could be a shower, it could be a torrential downpour. Either way, it should hit during this race. It's the shortest number of laps, the fewest number of laps, but the longest racetrack. So it's still going to balance out to the same sort of time. It's not a long run down to La Source, but it's a massive concertina effect, so we might see some opportunities for gaining positions. And then they're all going to concertina into La Source, into Eau Rouge and Radion, because we're all trying to get through there on lap 1. Maybe we can gain a few places, maybe we can get ahead of a few people and just try and defend. That's been our aim all the way through the season, really, just try and defend. Sometimes robustly, sometimes in vain, but I feel like we are actually fairly evenly matched with a couple of the cars around us here. Team objective is 15th. That's going to be our objective as well. Let's see if we can take a couple of places off the start and then just try and balance the rest of the race out. Hope the rain comes and we time it right for a change of strategy, change of tyres, and maybe, just maybe, we can do ourselves proud. But let's head over to the grid for the 2011 Belgian Grand Prix. Vettel on pole, Massa alongside. You can just about see Alonso there. Maldonado, our rival, P10. There we are, 16th. And there's Trulli down in 22nd. One light, two lights, three lights, four lights, and five. And away we go at Spa. Straight into Rich Mix as usual. Alguersuari's going to try and cover us off. There's a little bit of space there. It's one of the few times we haven't gained immediately off the line. But Barrichello comes in. Absolutely demolishes half the field. Sutil has amazingly made it up to P10 from his lowly grid spot. Having to back off behind him. But we pass him through Ravion. We're into the top 10. We've got a little bit of a gap back and a little bit of a gap ahead. Rosberg looking for a move up ahead on Alguersuari, who's still up there. Barrichello came diving in at the source. And that absolutely threw everyone in the field. Really opened the door for us. And we're through. On tyres, not so fun in the middle sector here. You see what I mean? Run wide. Stay just ahead of Adrian Sutil. A long run up to the bus stop through Blanchimont. 2010, AI were super slow through there. Just looks back, hoping to see if we can work out whether they're equally slow in 11th. Not entirely sure, but we have pulled away a little bit. Maldonado's down to 18th place. Oh, and there's carbon fibre. Somebody up ahead of us has lost a front wing. Or at least an end plate.
Jarno has just been on the radio. He thinks there's damage to his front wing.
Trulli's got damage. Kobayashi's gone past Sutil. It's all kicking off. I did say that during qualifying we had yellow flags for maybe 2 or 3 laps in a row through the middle sector. Particularly in Q2, as I say, where I think everybody was just trying to get through. And that might just be a sign of things to come in this race. As we run it a little wide there. Doesn't look like anybody ahead is slowing down. Cars in front. Alguersuari now has been passed. DRS is available now. I think that's a straightforward DRS pass, but maybe Rosberg has been held up by the Toro Rosso.
Up your pace, the car behind's catching you.
Oh, we run wide. I was going to say we're out of DRS range to Sutil, but we've allowed the Force India right back up to the back. Massa's now in 9th. He's really fallen. And Massa's out. We're up to P9. Massa is surely out of this one.
We're doing really well. 6 places up on
As
where
I
we
run
expected
wide.
to finish.
Will that allow Sutil through completely? Oh no, I've pushed him into the wall. There was definitely some understeer there. But Adrian Sutil is, well, he's either out or he's got damage. He's one or the other. That means that we've now got Kobayashi for company. Not for the first time this season. We've had contact that has potentially pushed somebody either out of a race or into a pit stop. Maldonado's 22nd, so
Radar suggests light rain in around 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Do we? Right. Okay. 15 minutes. Go to the primes and hope that we can just dive straight onto the inters. I think we do. We're going to go prime. able to get away from them a little bit through La Source and Eau Rouge, Radion and up the camera straight, and then we lose it again in the midsection. So far through mistakes like that one, keep running wide there, trying to carry too much speed. Kobayashi just breezes past us and we're down to P10. There's Jensen Button on this comeback.
That position. Put some pressure on him and try to get it back.
Be able to do that. Kobayashi's already gone. Got the angle of attack right there. That was good. Let's stay tight into this corner this time. Although I did last time, I think. Kobayashi just spotted a gap as Perez does as well. Out with the top 10. Fun while it lasted, and then we've got Jensen Button in the McLaren behind us. As I run wide, he's going to just easily take that place, although he's no run wide.
Alonso's the fastest man on the track at the moment.
Look like anybody's following. No, there are cars coming in. That's Adrian Sutil, he's coming in with us. Oh, the Virgin Racing crew were out as well, the HRT crew. Actually, both of them. Come out behind Jerome D'Ambrosio.
We put a new set of prime tyres on the car. You have 2 stops remaining.
2 stops remaining. Only run till lap 12. There might be drops of rain before we come into the pits, or just as we're due to come in, which is obviously going to make picking the right tyres a bit problematic. But Ambrosio's in, so we'll move back up to 15th.
There are quite a few cars in the pits right now. Watch out for cars exiting the pits.
Return in P13.
We've run the figures and think that the rest will be pitting for a new set of tyres soon, probably within the next 3 laps.
With that sort of time, that would suggest that they're all coming in, or they've all come out on options rather than primes. We're trying to essentially overcut them a little bit. Look, that was Sergio Perez pointing the wrong way. We're up to P11. In fact, that's 2 places we've just gained. Not anymore, but what happened?
Stay with him. He might
up ahead
and we can regain
to gain 2 places. As I run wide. Sutil also on the prime tyres as we tap the back of the Force India. They slow down through Blanchimont, which means I've nudged Sutil off again.
There's one of the Force India cars ahead of you.
Oh, Adrian. That lap chaotic for a few reasons. A few cars were off. Sutil definitely slowed through Blanchimont. He lifted off. We don't have to. We seem to be able to just keep our foot in it. Yep, there was contact, but Buemi now is going to have a go. He's got DRS. We'll move to the inside to try and cover. Already passed us before the corner. We try and send it. He comes back at us and then blocks us off. Sutil's still running at least. He hasn't gone out, but that's 2 incidents we've had with him in as many battles. So we're down to 13th again. You can see what Buemi was on actually as we were duelling, as I nearly lose it in Les Combes. Have to back it right off to save it, so that's really going to cost me, but
we think there's a chance of light rain in a few minutes' time.
Rain in a few minutes. Might be able to ride these out to then move to intermediates. Ideal, really, for us, as the rain is starting. Much like Hungary, a couple of retirements. Some issues for cars up ahead, and we are cooking on gas. Again, 12th is our best result this season, Monaco. And we took a 14th place in Hungary through retirements. 4 laps away from the pit stop here. Lost a lot of time all of a sudden to Sutil and Buemi ahead. I think now just trying to ride it out to the pit stop, and hopefully we can get onto intermediates. Track now looking quite slippery. I think run wide. I think we're going to make a bold strategy for it, as Sutil also appears to be struggling. I think I'm going to pull it in now.
Clear. Now's a good time to pit.
Get the intermediate tyres on. Anybody else coming in? That's going to be the question. Sutil basically tiptoes around the bus stop. Oh, we might not fall any places actually. It says rejoin 14th, which is where we are. Yeah, and I can see Virgin Racing are out. HRT are out as well. We're on to intermediate tyres. Is this going to be the absolute
to rejoin the track is clear.
mega brain strat?
You're on intermediates, only one stop to go.
One stop left. Hopefully we don't have to move to wet tyres, but
We think there's a chance of heavy rain in a few minutes' time.
well, that yeah, fine. We might be moving to full wet tyres then. Pitted and Sutil only gained 14 seconds. We might have made the absolute masterstroke of a call here, at least in our battles. Would be nice if this all came together after the cluster of the Nürburgring. Oh yeah, we've gained masses of time on Adrian Sutil.
Okay, DRS is now disabled due to wet weather tyres. Let's warm up those brakes. Brake hard in the next few corners.
A short but very slow pit lane here. We will, I think, move up to P13
We're
here.
2 places up on where we wanted to be.
Yes, we will. Sebastian Buemi next up the road.
It might be worth thinking about putting a set of full wets on. We've seen a few people change over.
Nearly lose it as engineer Andy tells us to move to the wet tyre. It's feeling pretty tricky out here now, so yeah, there's a clutch of cars in the pits. Everybody else moved to the inters though. Well, it looks like everybody else also moved to the intermediate tyres, so they're all moving now to the full wets, which is what we're going to do now. Pit entry's getting trickier and trickier. We should. Yeah, Sutil there. You can just about see him. He's coming in. Maldonado down at the back. It's good for us in our rivalry battle. best part of the lap behind me as we
Exit now.
leave on the full wets. Still P13.
The track is clear. Track is clear.
This will see us now through to the end.
You have no more scheduled pit stops, so look after your tyres.
Oh, he's a bit drifty through a rouge and Rabion. I'm also wondering if this could be
We're being caught by the
first
guy
race all
behind.
season.
Push.
But we managed to remain on the lead lap all the way to the end. A long circuit, and we are now obviously driving in the rain. 2 run-ins with Sutil so far this race, both of which have resulted in the Force India off into the gravel. And we were stopping on lap 24, it's a 22 lap race. I think we a little bit of a glitch there, a little bit of a bug, but we're okay as we lose the rear end. Regain it, stay in front of the Force India. And run wide in the next corner, but again, just about able to hold on to this P13 that I'm kind of tooth and nail fighting for at the moment. Any position ahead of an established car on the road rather than through retirements is a win for this car. I feel it's going to be the same next year driving for HRT in 2012. Not sure if I'd held P9 earlier in the race and not lost out on track, whether we'd still have been able to maintain that, but we've got our tyre calls right today. 5 to go in this one. Either Nürburgring or Hockenheim, Nürburgring or Hungary will be able to lap off fellow back marker teams. This is going to be another one of those races, I think. As we run wide, almost allow Sutil through, but again, just hold the Force India off. The first time this season, widest T128 in existence. We'd hit quite the run since I think about Spain to get all the way through to Germany before we managed to not lap a fellow back marker. He did lap Trulli in Hungary, but he did unlap himself when we had to take a pit stop. Way ahead of Pastor Maldonado, who's our rival now for the rest of the season. In fact, both Adrian Sutil and Pastor Maldonado are the only other drivers bar the Virgin Racing cars, the HRTs and Jarno Trulli, that have 0 points. And at the moment, we're beating both of them. Looking at where the next dot is on the mini-map, if that is our race leader, just heading through Les Combes, might be able to just stay away from them. Too much time looking at the mini-map, nearly lets Sutil through. Closest Sutil's been.
Sutil slightly faster than you.
Just keep ahead of him through La Source. All over the show through a Rouge and Rabion. Not a massive advantage gained though. Sutil in the slipstream. Far back into Les Combes. No one anywhere near the back of Adrian Sutil. I think this race is actually going to go the distance. First time in 2011 we've managed to make full race distance. We've got a couple more laps to hold the Force India off. Really like to. It would be 12th, 13th, 14th as our sort of best 3 results this season, which is just pleasing for the brain rather than pleasing for the drivers or constructors standings. And the engine up a bit because Sutil this time a little bit closer. But the classic, just park it in the middle of the road up to Lake Com. Just as well as in 2011 as it does today, as Sutil has a look up the inside. We'll block that one off with a bit of a late braking move. It's going to be a last lap of many dive bombs, I feel. Have to back off through Blanchimont. Really, because the AI can't seem to take that flat, but we're heading into the final lap of this Grand Prix. And not just our final lap, it is the final lap. Which will be a first for 2011. We're going to be fighting Adrian Sutil in the Force India all the way here, I think. Fairly low expectations coming in, so moving into the top 10 off the line was a welcome problem to have. After making it into Q2, Sebastian Vettel though takes the victory for Red Bull, and that'll extend his championship lead after coming into this round level on points with Fernando Alonso. He'll take the lead and move ahead. But we've come together with Sutil a couple of times in this race. He ended up off the road, but right at the death. We're still fighting. Got the tyre call right for intermediates. No, 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 no! We're going to have to send it if we're going to go. And we do send it. And we block Sutil out. We regained 13th place. I thought we'd lost it then. He's going to try and come back at us in the final bit of the lap. We lost an awful lot of time to Sutil as the conditions changed to full wet, but we came in at the right time there again. And he's been hunting us down ever since, but we enter the bus stop for the last time. We'll take our second best result of the season, P13, in Belgium.
That was a good solid drive, well done.
Thank you, Engineer Andy. We finish the race at full distance for the first time in 2011 and take a P13 after a half race long battle, I'd say, with Adrian Sutil's Force India. We're ahead of Sutil, D'Ambrosio, Cartacane, Trulli, Glock, Barrichello, Maldonado, our rival, and Liuzzi. Maldonado manages to pass Liuzzi down at the bottom of the field, but we finish ahead of both Williams, one of the Force Indias, and more importantly our rival, along with all of the other new teams. Perez, Rosberg and Felipe Massa don't manage to finish this one. But the other end of things, Sebastian Vettel took the victory from Lewis Hamilton. Mark Webber was third. Alonso could only manage fourth, which I think means he's probably going to get jumped by by Webber as well, maybe. Actually, no, maybe not. But Webber's going to close on him. Then it's Schumacher, Petrov, Button recovers from 20th to finish 7th. Alguersuari's 8th. Heidfeld is 9th. Kobayashi takes P10. De Resta and Buemi 11th and 12th. In the drivers, we remain 19th, but we did beat both Maldonado and Sutil, and we beat Barrichello as well. We're still ahead of Glock, D'Ambrosio, Liuzzi, Cartacane and Jarno Trulli. At the top end of things, as I said, Sebastian Vettel takes the lead by 13 points. And Alonso now 9 points ahead of Mark Webber. Jenson Button's poor qualifying might have scuppered his hopes at challenging for the title, but he scored some points to remain just on the coattails. Button jumps Massa, who didn't manage to finish. Petrov remains ahead of Schumacher, extends that gap to 2 points with Rosberg in 9th. Perez is 10th, and it's Heidfeld and Kobayashi just ahead of Buemi, Alguersuari, Di Resta, and Barrichello. And in the constructors, we remain 10th ahead of Virgin Racing and HRT. Red Bull still lead the way. 74 clear of Ferrari, now probably en route to the constructors' title once again. McLaren close up to the back of Ferrari thanks to Massa's DNF and Alonso's 4th. They're now just 23 points behind the Scuderia. Mercedes still kind of on their own in 4th place ahead of Lotus Renault, who are 30 clear of Sauber. Then it's Toro Rosso, Force India, and Williams. And that was actually a surprisingly fun race. I didn't expect Belgium to be somewhere that we'd enjoy our time, shall we say. I was expecting the pace differential to really cost us in this one, especially up the Kemmel Straight. But the weather played into our advantage in qualifying. The weather played into our advantage in the race, and we got our calls right. So we may be 13th and still with 8 points, but that's our second best result of the season. And it was a fairly strong drive as well. It didn't feel like we were always fighting a losing battle. Early on, we had a couple of run-ins with Adrian Sutil, and we had to fight for our position, which was already out of the points before we even pitted. But we managed to plateau, I'd say, maintain nicely. And taking a P13, yeah, all right, with DNFs, we would have been without the DNFs, would have been P16. But a P13 is a great result for this car. So it's 12th in Monaco, 13th in Belgium, and 14th at the Hungaroring. It feels like in the last couple of rounds things are coming together for us. Monza, though, is next. All power, all the time. And whether we're going to get as many DNFs or as much shenanigans there, I don't know. But it's going to be interesting to find out. Maybe the tide is turning in our favour. We might be able to snag a point. But so far, we've beaten our rival. And we've beaten our objective. For the second race in a row. So positives to take away. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Like, share, subscribe. Do all the good stuff. You know the drill by now. And I'll see you in Italy for the next one. Take care.